Well, this was the scene in Tel Aviv in Israel just an hour or two ago. There have been huge explosions in the sky over central Israel.
Iran's latest attack on Israel has prophecy watchers on edge. Could this be the first spark of the Gog and Magog war foretold in Ezekiel? What happened in those terrifying hours may have been the opening chapter of the most prophetic war ever written about, a conflict so significant that it was detailed in the Bible nearly 2,600 years ago. The skies over Israel erupted in flames as hundreds of Iranian drones and missiles streaked through the darkness. Air raid sirens wailed across the nation as families huddled in bomb shelters, many clutching their Bibles and wondering if ancient prophecy was finally unfolding before their eyes. If you want to understand how current events align with biblical prophecy and what these developments might mean for our future, make sure to subscribe to our channel. We explore the connections between ancient predictions and modern headlines that most people completely miss. But let me show you exactly why this attack has prophecy experts around the world holding their breath. In Ezekiel chapter 38, God speaks through the prophet about a future war. "Son of man, set your face against Gog, of the land of Magog. Persia, Cush, and Put will be with them." When we decode these ancient names, Persia is clearly Iran, and they're leading exactly the kind of coalition Ezekiel described. Sarah Martinez was in her Jerusalem apartment when the sirens began. "I grabbed my children and ran to the shelter," she told reporters, tears streaming down her face. "All I could think about was Ezekiel's prophecy. My grandfather always said we'd know the time was near when Persia came against Israel. Are we living in those days now?" It was a coordinated assault unlike anything the world had seen. Wave after wave of sophisticated weapons launched from Iranian territory, flying hundreds of miles toward the Jewish state. Israeli radar screens filled with incoming threats as defense systems scrambled to respond. But here's what makes this moment unprecedented and terrifying. The nations now aligned against Israel match almost perfectly with the coalition described in Ezekiel's ancient vision. Iran leads the charge, just as Persia is named first in the prophecy. Russia strengthens its alliance with Tehran through their cooperation in Syria. Turkey, despite NATO membership, increasingly tilts toward the Russia-Iran axis. If this is just the beginning, what comes next? Miraculously, most projectiles were intercepted, but witnesses reported something chilling. Many of Iran's most sophisticated missiles simply malfunctioned for unexplained reasons. Some exploded in midair without being hit, others fell harmlessly into the desert. Israeli pilots described unusual atmospheric conditions that night. It was like the elements themselves were fighting against the attackers, one F-35 pilot reported anonymously. This echoes exactly what Ezekiel prophesied about God's supernatural intervention. "I will execute judgment on him with plague and bloodshed. I will pull down torrents of rain, hailstones, and burning sulfur on him and on his troops." Rabbi David Cohen, who has studied end times prophecy for decades, was watching the attack unfold on television. "When I saw those missiles failing for no reason apparent, I remembered Ezekiel's words about God putting hooks in their jaws and drawing them out." Could this attack have been orchestrated by divine providence to position the players exactly where they need to be? The timing is equally prophetic. Just months before Iran's attack, Israel had been celebrating unprecedented peace agreements with Arab nations. The Abraham Accords seemed to promise a new era of Middle Eastern stability. Tourism was booming. Israelis felt more secure than they had in decades. Ezekiel specifically says this war comes when Israel is living in safety, dwelling securely in the land. Many scholars believe this refers to a false peace, a temporary calm before the ultimate storm. Could this be the war that brings in the prophesied peace covenant? The attack pattern matches biblical prophecy with chilling precision. Ezekiel describes the invasion coming from the far north, and geographically, both Russia and Iran lie directly north of Israel. He describes enemy forces as a great horde, a mighty army that covers the land like a cloud. Witnesses describe the sky literally darkened by the massive swarm of drones and missiles. Military analysts called it the largest coordinated aerial assault in modern Middle Eastern history. Within hours of Iran's attack, the prophetic coalition activated exactly as predicted. Hezbollah militants in Lebanon mobilized. Houthis in Yemen launched additional strikes. Pro-Iranian militias in Iraq and Syria came online. It was as if a prophetic signal had been sent across the region. David Thompson, an American missionary living in northern Israel, captured the moment on his phone. I was filming the Iron Dome intercepting missiles when I realized this is exactly what Ezekiel described. A massive invasion from the north with allies from multiple nations. The hair on my arm stood up as I watched prophecy unfold in real time.
The international response has been equally telling. Western nations condemned the assault and called for de-escalation, but no one took decisive action to defend Israel. They watched, questioned, and wrung their hands, but didn't intervene. This matches Ezekiel's prophecy perfectly. Chapter 38, verse 13, describes other nations asking, "Have you come to plunder? Have you gathered your hordes to loot?" These nations question the invasion, but don't stop it. But Ezekiel's prophecy describes something far more devastating than what we witnessed. The coming war will be so massive that it takes 7 months to bury the dead and 7 years to burn the weapons of war. The destruction will be so complete that mountains crumble and the earth itself shakes. Recent intelligence suggests Iran's attack was indeed a test, probing Israeli defenses, analyzing response times, studying coordination patterns. Military experts believe the real assault is still being planned. Dr. Michael Stevens, a prophecy scholar who has written extensively on Ezekiel, warns, "What we witnessed may have been the preliminary phase. If this recent attack was just reconnaissance for the main event, then what's coming will make this look like a minor skirmish." The geopolitical pieces are falling into place with terrifying accuracy. When we map ancient biblical names to modern nations, the alignment is startling. Magog corresponds to Russia and Central Asia. Gomer appears to be Turkey. Put encompasses Libya and North Africa. Cush encompasses Sudan and Ethiopia. Look at today's alliances. The Iran-Russia-Turkey axis has grown stronger through conflicts in Syria and Iraq. North African nations show increasing hostility toward Israel. Iranian-backed proxy groups, Hezbollah, Hamas, Houthis, already surround Israel's borders. If this is just reconnaissance for what's coming, what signs should we watch for? Israel finds itself increasingly isolated as the United Nations routinely condemns Israeli defensive actions. European leaders call for restraint while Iranian missiles target civilian areas. Even traditional allies waver in their support, exactly as Ezekiel predicted. Meanwhile, other prophetic preparations continue accelerating. Red heifers required for temple purification rituals have been identified and prepared. Archaeological work advances on the Temple Mount. Jewish religious authorities train priests for temple service. The Euphrates River continues drying up, fulfilling Revelation's end-times prophecy. Global movements toward digital currencies echo the mark of the beast system. UFO disclosures may be setting the stage for the signs and wonders that will deceive many. Pastor Jim Richards, who has tracked prophetic fulfillment for over 30 years, recently stated, "I've watched tensions rise and fall in the Middle East my entire ministry, but what's happening now feels different. The precision with which current events match ancient prophecy is breathtaking and frightening." Some prophecy experts believe the Gog and Magog war directly precedes the 7-year tribulation period. Others think it coincides with the Antichrist's peace treaty with Israel. Still others see it as the catalyst that leads to the rebuilding of the Third Temple. What makes this particularly urgent is the prophetic description of God's response. Ezekiel doesn't describe Israel defeating this coalition through military might alone. Instead, God himself intervenes with supernatural judgment so dramatic that the entire world recognizes his involvement. The aftermath will trigger a spiritual awakening in Israel. Ezekiel 39:22 says, "From that day forward, the people of Israel will know that I am the Lord their God." This suggests the war serves a greater purpose, revealing God's power to prepare his people for the final chapters of history. But here's what should make every believer pay attention. The prophet Daniel was told his visions were sealed until the time of the end, but he was also promised that those who are wise will understand. Could we be living in that time right now? The Iran attack may have been just the opening move. If Bible prophecy is accurate, what comes next will be a supernatural intervention so overwhelming that no one can deny God's involvement. Events that have been building for millennia may unfold in months or weeks. Ancient prophecies written 2,600 years ago are aligning with modern headlines in ways that should make every person of faith sit up and take notice. The exact nations mentioned in Ezekiel are positioned against Israel today. The stage is set like never before in human history. If this is the first move, then the world could be just one step away from the fulfillment of one of the Bible's most dramatic prophecies. The next escalation might not be a test run. It might be the real thing that brings divine intervention and changes everything. Don't let this prophetic moment pass unnoticed. Like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell so you won't miss what happens next in this unfolding biblical drama. Share this video so others can recognize the signs that most people are completely missing. The players are in position. The stage is set. Ancient prophecies are converging with current events in ways that demand our attention. Stay vigilant, stay informed, and keep watching. The next attack might trigger the war that shakes the entire world and proves that God's word stands forever.